I got pregnant with my husband's brother's baby. He filed for divorce, stole our house, vanished, and left us begging to explain the truth. My life is destroyed. I'm 7 months pregnant with my husband's brother's baby, and I'm writing this from a studio apartment that smells like mildew and regret. My husband is gone. Not gone like he moved out. Gone like he doesn't exist anymore. New number. No forwarding address. No social media. No mutual friends willing to tell me where he went. Gone like a person who decided that erasing himself from my life was easier than looking at me one more time. His name was Anton. Is Anton. He's still alive somewhere. I just don't get to know where. I need to tell this story because everyone in my life has already decided what happened. They've heard his silence and filled it with their own version. And every version makes me the villain. I came here to explain my side. To give the context nobody asked for. To say the things I never got to say to Anton because he left before I could open my mouth. But I need to be honest about something before I start. I've been rehearsing my explanation for 4 months. I've written it out. Edited it. Practiced it in the mirror. And every single version is a lie. Not the facts. The facts are real. But the framing. The tone. The little adjustments I make to the timeline to give myself more room. It's all designed to make me look less guilty than I am. So I'm going to stop doing that. Right now. No more framing. Here's what happened. Anton and I were married for 6 years. Together for 9. We met at a friend's barbecue when I was 23. He was grilling chicken and he burned every single piece and laughed about it and bought pizza for everyone instead. That's who he was. The guy who messed up and made it better without making it a big deal. He was an electrician. Union. Good pay. Steady hours. Came home at the same time every day. Showered. Changed. Asked me about my day like he actually wanted to know the answer. He wasn't flashy. Wasn't loud. Wasn't the guy who walked into a room and owned it. He was the guy who walked into a room and made everyone in it feel comfortable. I loved him. I need to say that because what comes next makes it sound like I didn't. I did. I loved him in that deep, quiet, boring way that doesn't make for good stories. He was safe. Reliable. Present. And for a long time that was enough. Then it wasn't. I don't know when it shifted. There's no single moment I can point to where I decided safety wasn't enough. It was gradual. Like a faucet dripping. By year 5 I was bored. Not unhappy. Bored. Anton was the same every day. Same routine. Same jokes. Same way of folding towels. Same way of kissing me goodnight. Left side. Always the left side. I started wanting something that surprised me. Something that made my pulse do something other than maintain a steady rhythm. I didn't go looking for it. But I was open to it. And being open to it is the same thing as looking for it. I know that now. Vaughn is Anton's younger brother. 2 years younger. Same build but leaner. Same job but sharper. He moved back to our city after his startup failed in Austin. Needed a place to stay. Anton said yes before I even had time to think about it. Vaughn moved into our guest room in March. By April I understood why his startup failed. He was all energy and no follow-through. Big ideas. No execution. Charming and scattered. The kind of person who makes everything feel like an adventure even when it's just running to the store for paper towels. He was everything Anton wasn't. And I mean that as a description, not a compliment. But at the time, I treated it like a compliment. Vaughn and I started talking late at night. Anton went to bed by 10 every night because he woke up at 5. Vaughn was a night person. So was I. We'd sit in the kitchen after Anton went upstairs. Coffee. Sometimes wine. Talking about nothing that mattered. Dreams. Failures. The kind of conversation that feels intimate just because it happens in the dark. I told myself it was friendship. Then I told myself it was connection. Then I told myself it was something I deserved because my marriage was lacking in some unnamed way that I couldn't quite define but definitely felt. The first time it happened was in May. Anton was away for a weekend training certification. I stayed home. Vaughn stayed home. We ordered takeout and watched a movie and I told myself I was just keeping him company. We both knew. We both knew before the food arrived. I'm not going to describe what happened because the details don't matter. What matters is that I made a choice. In my own house. In the home my husband paid the mortgage on. On the couch he picked out. While his brother's suitcase was still in the guest room upstairs. I made a choice and I told myself that the choice was more complicated than it actually was. It wasn't complicated. I wanted something and I took it and I didn't think about the person it would hurt. It kept going. June. July. August. Anton would leave for work and I'd feel relief. Not because I didn't love him. Because his absence made it easier to pretend I wasn't doing what I was doing. Vaughn would come out of the guest room and we'd have coffee like we were the couple and Anton was the guest. I was rewriting the household in my head. Rearranging who belonged where. Promoting Vaughn to a position he hadn't earned and didn't deserve. September, I missed my period. I knew immediately. Didn't need a test. My body told me the way bodies do. I bought 3 tests anyway. All positive. I sat on the bathroom floor doing the math. Anton and I hadn't been together in 6 weeks. Vaughn and I had been together 4 days ago. There was no ambiguity. 0. This wasn't a who's the father situation. This was a Vaughn's baby situation. And I knew it the second I looked at those 3 pink lines. I told Vaughn first. In the kitchen. His face went through about 7 expressions in 3 seconds and landed on fear. He said, "What are you going to do?" Not what are we going to do. What are you going to do? I should have heard that. The entire future was in that pronoun. He was already separating himself from consequence. But I didn't hear it. I heard a man who was scared, and I told myself scared was normal. I said, "I'm keeping it." He said, "Okay. What about Anton?" I said, "I'll tell him. I'll explain everything. We'll figure it out." Figure it out. Like a flat tire. Like a scheduling conflict. Like the biggest betrayal a man can experience from his wife and his brother was a problem to be managed instead of a detonation. I waited 2 weeks. 14 days of sitting across from my husband at dinner and knowing. 14 days of him asking how I was feeling and me saying fine. 14 days of him touching my stomach and saying, "You look different lately. Are you okay?" I was carrying his brother's baby and he was asking if I was okay. On a Sunday night I told him. He was at the kitchen table going over work orders for Monday. I sat down across from him and I said, "I need to tell you something." He put the papers down. Gave me his full attention. The way he always did. I said, "I'm pregnant." His face changed. Not lit up. Changed. Because we'd been trying for 2 years. 2 years of negative tests and doctor appointments and quiet disappointments. He'd wanted a baby more than I realized. I could see it now. In the way his eyes widened and his shoulders dropped and his mouth opened. He said, "Are you serious?" I said, "Yes." He stood up. Came around the table. Reached for me. I said, "Wait. It's not yours." His hand stopped. Midair. Like someone pressed pause on a human being. I said, "It's Vaughn's." The pause lasted 4 seconds. Maybe 5. I know because I counted everyone. He put his hands down. Slowly. Like they weighed 1,000 pounds. He didn't sit back down. Didn't yell. Didn't punch the table. Didn't ask how could you. Didn't do any of the things I'd prepared for. He looked at me with an expression I've never seen before and will never forget. It wasn't anger. It wasn't sadness. It was the face of a man watching something he built catch fire and deciding not to run inside to save anything. He said one word. "Okay." Then he walked upstairs. I heard the bedroom door close. Not slam. Close. I sat at that table for 2 hours. Waiting for him to come back down. Waiting for the yelling. The questions. The tears. Something. Anything. A fight is an opening. A fight means there's still energy. Still investment. Still a reason to engage. He never came back down. At 6 the next morning he left for work. Normal time. Normal routine. I heard the truck start. I watched the headlights sweep across the bedroom ceiling. He didn't say goodbye. When I came downstairs there was a single piece of paper on the kitchen table. A printout. From a lawyer's website. Information about divorce proceedings in our state. No note. No handwriting. Just information. By Wednesday a real envelope arrived. Filed petition. Legal language. Irreconcilable differences. His lawyer's name and number. A request for me to respond within 30 days. I called Anton. Voicemail. Texted him. Read receipts off. Called again. Nothing. Called his job. His foreman said Anton had taken personal leave effective immediately. I drove to Vaughn's room. He was already packing. I said, "Where are you going?" He said, "I can't be here when he comes back." I said, "He filed for divorce. He's not coming back." Vaughn stopped packing. Looked at me. And said something that should have shattered every illusion I had left about who he was. He said, then I definitely can't be here. He left that afternoon. Duffel bag. His car. Drove to a friend's place in another state. Didn't tell me which friend. Didn't tell me which state. 2 people. The 2 men closest to my husband. We both destroyed him and then we both ran from the mess we made. The only difference between me and Vaughn is that I couldn't run because I was pregnant with the evidence. Anton's lawyer was efficient. Devastatingly efficient. Within 2 weeks I received a second set of documents. He wasn't just filing for divorce. He was requesting full asset division with specific terms. The house. We owned it together, but Anton had paid the down payment. $47,000 from his savings. 6 years of mortgage payments, mostly from his income. His lawyer included bank statements, pay stubs, a spreadsheet showing every payment, every contribution, every dollar Anton put into the property versus what I contributed. The math wasn't close. It wasn't even in the same area code. My income was part-time receptionist at a dental office. 22 hours a week. I'd always told myself I was going to go back to school. Get a degree. Build a career. Anton said, take your time. He said, we're fine. Whenever you're ready. He was patient with my stalling because that's who he was. Patient. Steady. The exact kind of man I should have protected instead of betrayed. His lawyer argued that Anton had built the majority of the home's equity and therefore was entitled to the larger share. My lawyer, a woman named Gail who I could barely afford, told me the truth. She said, the math isn't in your favor. The circumstances aren't in your favor. And honestly, if this goes in front of a judge and the full context comes out, the sympathy won't be in your favor either. She meant the affair. With his brother. In his house. While he paid the bills. I agreed to the terms. I didn't have a choice. Anton got the house. Sold it within 60 days. I don't know what he got for it. I don't know where the money went. I just know that the house I lived in for 6 years, the house where I burned my first Thanksgiving turkey and he ate it anyway and said it was perfect, the house where we slow danced in the living room at 2 a.m. after our wedding, the house belongs to a stranger now. I moved into a studio apartment. The mildew one. Rent is $875 a month and it takes almost everything I make. I tried calling Anton 6 times after the divorce was finalized. Every call went to a number that no longer existed. He didn't just change his number. He disconnected it. Like the line itself was something he needed to erase. I went to his mother's house. His mother, Constance, answered the door and looked at me for a long time without speaking. Then she said, he asked me not to tell you where he is. And I'm going to honor that. I said, I just want to talk to him. I just want to explain. She said, explain what, Rochelle? That you slept with his brother in his house for 5 months. That you're carrying his brother's baby. That you told him on a Sunday night at the kitchen table where he goes over his work orders. What part of that needs explanation? The timeline. The location. The fact that it was his own blood. I said, there were problems in our marriage. She said, then you fix them. Or you leave. You don't sleep with his brother. I said, I know. She said, do you? Because from where I'm standing it looks like you thought the rules didn't apply to you. And now you're 7 months pregnant standing on my porch asking me to help you reach the man you destroyed so you can explain why destroying him wasn't as bad as it looks. She closed the door. I sat in my car in her driveway for 20 minutes. Vaughn resurfaced in November. A text. 1 line. How's the baby? I didn't respond for 3 days. Then I called him. He answered. Sounded tired. Different city. New job. Warehouse work. He said he was getting his life together. I asked if he told anyone what happened. He said no. I asked if he talked to Anton. He went quiet. Then he said, Anton knows my number. If he wanted to talk, he'd call. I said, he disconnected his old number. He disappeared. Vaughn said, maybe that's his answer. I said, that's not an answer. That's avoidance. And as the words came out of my mouth, I heard them. I heard myself calling Anton silence avoidance. The man I cheated on. With his brother. For 5 months. In his home. I was calling his response to my betrayal avoidance. Like he owed me a conversation. Like his silence was a problem that needed fixing instead of the only sane response to what I did. Vaughn said, I can't do this right now. And hung up. He sends money sometimes. 200 here. 300 there. No schedule. No commitment. No pattern. Just random deposits that feel more like guilt payments than child support. I called his friend Mitchell. The one he was staying with. Asked for Vaughn's address. Mitchell said, I don't think that's a good idea. I said, he's the father of my child. Mitchell said, yeah. And Anton was your husband. And Vaughn was Anton's brother. And somehow you're the only person in this situation who thinks a conversation is going to fix something. Then he said, Anton called me. Once. About 2 months after he left. He wasn't angry. He wasn't sad. He just said, I lost my wife and my brother on the same Sunday. Tell me that gets better. I told him it does. Then he hung up and I never heard from him again. So no, Rochelle. I'm not giving you Vaughn's address. I'm not helping anyone in this triangle find anyone else. You all need to sit with what you did. He hung up. I told my best friend Sasha everything. Start to finish. I expected empathy. Or at least the kind of loyalty where your best friend takes your side even when you're wrong. She listened. For a long time. Then she said, I love you but I can't defend this. You had the best man I've ever seen treat a woman right and you did the one thing that guaranteed he'd leave. And you didn't just cheat. You cheated with his brother. In his house. There's no context that makes that okay. There's no marriage problem big enough to justify that specific betrayal. I said, you don't understand. She said, I understand perfectly. You were bored. Bored with a man who loved you. And instead of addressing it like an adult, you lit a match in a room full of gasoline and now you're asking why everything burned. Sasha and I don't talk as much anymore. Not because of a fight. Because she looks at me the way Constance does. With that mix of sadness and disbelief that makes me feel like I'm being observed instead of seen. My mother was the only person who took my side. For about 3 weeks. She said, marriage is complicated. People make mistakes. You'll get through this. Then she met Constance at a grocery store. They talked for 40 minutes. I don't know what Constance told her. But when my mother came home, she sat at the kitchen table and stared at me for a long time. She said, you told me your marriage was in trouble. You told me Anton was distant and cold. You told me the spark was gone and you were lonely. I said, all of that was true. She said, was it? Because Constance told me something different. She said Anton was planning a surprise trip for your anniversary. Had been saving for 3 months. Paris. He was going to take you to Paris. He told his mother because he needed her to watch the house while you were gone. He was saving for the trip at the same time you were sleeping with his brother in the next room. I didn't know about Paris. He never mentioned it. I went home and looked through our old joint account statements. She was right. Starting in June. Small withdrawals. $150 here. $200 there. Moved to a savings account I didn't know existed. He'd been hiding money? Not to leave. Not to prepare for divorce. To take me to Paris. In June. The same month I first slept with Vaughn. Anton was putting away $150 for plane tickets while I was on his couch with his brother. The savings account had $2,340 in it when he closed it. Closed on the same day he filed for divorce. Every dollar he saved for us, gone. Same timeline. Same house. Different projects. He was building something beautiful in the exact months I was tearing everything apart. My mother said, I can't keep defending you when you're not being honest with me about who he was. You didn't leave a bad man. You destroyed a good one. She still takes my calls. She still helps with appointments and drives me to the doctor. But the look is different now. She helps me the way you help someone you love who you've lost respect for. With effort. With duty. Without the ease that comes from admiration. Work found out. Not because I told them. Because Anton's friend Dex worked in the same building as the dental office. Different floor. But same parking lot. Same break area. He saw me at 5 months. Visibly pregnant. He knew Anton and I were divorced. He knew about Vaughn. Small circles. Within a week 3 coworkers stopped eating lunch with me. Nobody said anything directly. Nobody had to. The invitations just stopped. The group chat went quiet. I'd walk into the break room and feel the temperature drop 3 degrees. One of the hygienists, a woman named Bria who I'd been friendly with for 2 years, finally said something. We were in the supply closet restocking trays. She said, I'm not judging you. But I sat next to Anton at the office Christmas party last year. He brought homemade cookies for everyone. He remembered my daughter's name. He asked about her dance recital. That's the man you did this to. And I can be professional with you. But I can't be your friend right now. Maybe not ever. I nodded. What else could I do? The doctor's office is the worst. Every appointment. The waiting room full of women with partners. Husbands holding clipboards. Boyfriends rubbing backs. One guy was filming his wife's belly for a gender reveal. Everyone paired up. Everyone together. I sit alone. Fill out the forms alone. Hear the heartbeat alone. The nurse always says, "Is anyone joining you today?" I always say, "No. Just me." She stopped asking after the third visit. The baby is due in 8 weeks. A boy. I've had 3 ultrasounds alone. Vaughn came to the first one. Stood in the corner. Looked at the screen. Didn't cry. Didn't smile. Just looked at it like he was reading a report. Then he drove back to whatever city he lives in now, and I haven't seen him in person since. I'm going to be a single mother. Not the kind who chose it. Not the kind who made a brave decision. The kind who manufactured her own isolation through a series of choices that each felt survivable in the moment but added up to complete destruction. I think about Anton every day. Not with love. Not with longing. With the specific ache of knowing I had something real and I burned it because I confused boredom with unhappiness and excitement with love. Vaughn wasn't love. Vaughn was a distraction with a heartbeat. He was new and different and present in the ways that come easy when you have zero responsibility. He didn't pay the mortgage. He didn't wake up at 5. He didn't sit in waiting rooms after negative pregnancy tests and hold my hand and say, "We'll keep trying." Anton did all of that. Every morning. Every month. Every negative test. And I repaid him by getting pregnant with his brother in his own home. There's a version of this story I wanted to tell. The version where our marriage was broken. Where Anton was cold and distant. Where the affair happened because I was starving for connection. Where the pregnancy was an accident born from loneliness. That version is partially true. But partially true is fully dishonest. Because the other half of the story is that Anton loved me consistently and I found consistency boring. That he was present and I wanted novelty. That he was building us a life and I was tearing it down in the guest room. I tried to find Anton one more time. 3 weeks ago. Hired a service. One of those online people finder things. $35. They found an address in another state. I drove there. 6 hours. Small town. Nice street. I parked across the road. There was a truck in the driveway. His truck. Same truck. I recognized it from the dent on the rear bumper where he backed into a mailbox 2 years ago. The front door opened. A woman walked out. Short hair. Smiling. She was holding a coffee mug and laughing at something inside the house. Then Anton came out behind her. He looked different. Lighter. His shoulders weren't carrying the same weight. He was wearing a flannel shirt I'd never seen before. He said something to her and she bumped his shoulder with hers and they stood on the porch like 2 people who had all the time in the world. I watched for 4 minutes. Then I left. He looked happy. Genuinely happy. The kind of happy I couldn't give him because I was too busy looking for happiness in the wrong room of his own house. I drove 6 hours home. Didn't turn on the radio. Just drove. Me and the baby and the silence that Anton left behind. I wanted to explain my truth. I wanted to say it wasn't as simple as it looks. I wanted to tell him the marriage was struggling. That I felt invisible. That Vaughn made me feel seen. But none of that is an explanation. It's packaging. It's gift wrap on garbage. The truth underneath all the framing is simple. I had a good man. I didn't protect what he gave me. I opened the door to his brother and let him walk through it. And when my husband found out, he did the only thing a self-respecting man could do. He left. Quietly. Completely. Without giving me the fight I needed to feel like we both failed. Because we didn't both fail? I failed. I failed alone. And he left alone. And now I'm sitting in a studio apartment that smells like mildew, 7 months pregnant, typing this on a phone that will never ring with his name on it again. The baby kicks sometimes at night. Strong kicks. He's active after midnight. Just like Vaughn. And I lie in the dark feeling my son move and thinking about the man who should have been his father. Who wanted to be a father more than anything. Who sat through 2 years of failed attempts and never once made me feel like it was my fault. I gave that gift to someone else. Not because Vaughn deserved it. Because I stopped paying attention to what deserved meant. Constance was right. Sasha was right. My mother was right. I didn't leave a bad marriage. I detonated a good one. And the man standing on that porch with coffee and a flannel shirt and a woman who bumps his shoulder when he makes her laugh is proof that the problem was never him. It was always me. And the worst part isn't that he's gone. The worst part is that he's fine. He's better than fine. He's free. He rebuilt in a year what took me 9 years to tear down. I'll never get to explain my truth. Because my truth was never real. It was a script I wrote to survive looking in the mirror. And mirrors don't care about scripts. They just show you what's there. I'm here. In this apartment. With this baby. And the man I married is on a porch somewhere laughing with someone who knows what she has. I knew what I had to. I just didn't know I knew until the house was sold and the number was disconnected and the only sound left was my own breathing in a room that nobody else is coming home to.